So what if I told you that the famous 21 days to build a habit rule, I mean, you know the one you see on literally every motivational blog.
Oh, yeah, it's printed on gym walls, productivity planners, everywhere.
Right, exactly. But what if I told you it has absolutely nothing to do with human psychology?
Wait, really? Nothing at all.
Nothing. What if I told you it was actually invented by a 1960s plastic surgeon who was, well, he was just observing how long it took his patients to get used to looking at their new noses in the mirror?
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. And yet, it's one of the most pervasive myths out there.
It really is.
And it sets people up for, like, inevitable failure. I mean, when you expect a complete psychological rewiring in 3 weeks, just because a surgeon noticed people adjusting to a physical change, you are going to feel like you are uniquely broken when you hit day 22. And, budgeting is still incredibly difficult.
Exactly. And that feeling of being broken, that's exactly what we are here to dismantle today. Because our mission for this deep dive is to guide you, whether you're a seasoned investor looking for a mindset reset, or, if you consider yourself a total beginner, we want to guide you through a concept we're calling quiet financial independence.
I love that phrase, quiet financial independence.
Yeah, it's powerful. We are pulling from an incredible stack of research today, largely anchored by the concepts in the quiet. Kind of rich and true change is quiet. And we're going to structure this conversation using our core framework, which is reality, agency, and possibility.
Which honestly is the perfect lens for this specific topic. I mean, first, reality.
Right.
We need to diagnose what is fundamentally broken in the modern financial landscape.
Right, because you can't fix a problem you don't accurately see.
Precisely. And then second, agency. We are going to outline the exact hidden levers you actually have control over right now, today.
The actionable stuff.
Exactly. And third, possibility. We want to paint a clear, realistic picture of what your life looks like when you act consistently on these principles.
Because this isn't about toxic positivity, right?
Oh, definitely not. And it certainly isn't about doom-mongering either. It is about clear-eyed optimism, better decisions, better systems, and a fundamentally better future.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the reality of our current financial culture. We really need to talk about performative wealth.
Oh, yeah. The loud stuff.
Right, because if you spend even 5 minutes scrolling through your feed, you are just bombarded with this incredibly loud version of change. And it's marketed to you as the standard.
It really is. You see the screenshots of six-figure crypto months or, the rented Lamborghinis.
I quit my corporate job to day trade manifestos.
Yes, it's deafening. And what the data clearly shows is that this is a meticulously curated illusion. I mean, we live in a society that just completely conflates visibility with viability.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Visibility with viability.
Right, but looking rich is historically the fastest, most efficient way to stay broke. The people loudly projecting wealth, well, they are often the ones carrying the most precarious, highly leveraged debt.
It feels like, to me, we're constantly being sold the idea of building a movie set instead of a real house.
Okay, I like that. Say more about that.
Well, think about how a movie set operates, right? It looks incredibly wealthy on camera for a 5-minute scene. The paint is fresh, the facade is grand, the lighting is perfect. But, if you walk behind the wall, it's just a flat piece of plywood propped up by a couple of 2x4.
Oh, absolutely.
There is no plumbing, there is no foundation. It literally falls over in the first windstorm. And that is what performative wealth is. It's building this fragile facade for an audience of total strangers, while your actual structural integrity, your savings, your investments, your peace of mind, it's entirely non-existent.
What's fascinating here is how the modern financial system doesn't just passively allow this movie set behavior, it actively weaponizes it.
Weaponizes it how? Like against us.
Yes, completely. We aren't just battling our own human nature here, our evolutionary desire for status and tribal approval. We are battling billions of dollars of behavioral engineering. If you look at the architecture of modern spending, things like digital wallets, convenience apps, one-click checkouts, those ubiquitous buy now, pay later buttons.
Right, they're everywhere now.
Tech companies have spent vast fortunes to completely eliminate what behavioral economists call psychological friction.
Okay, let's drill down into that, because I think psychological friction is a term people experience every single day without really knowing what to call it. What does that actually look like in our brains when we buy something?
Well, to understand it, you really have to look at the history of how we transact. So think about 50 years ago. If you wanted to buy a television, you had to physically go to a bank, withdraw cash, hold those paper bills in your hand, count them out, and hand them to another human being.
Right, as a whole process.
A very physical process. And when you do that, your brain registers a literal pain response. It is a loss. Neuroimaging actually shows that parting with physical cash activates areas of the brain associated with physical discomfort.
With actual physical discomfort.
Yes. That friction forces you to evaluate, do I really want this television more than I want these physical hundreds in my hand?
But now, I mean, they've engineered that pain entirely out of the process.
Completely out. The goal of consumer tech is to make the act of parting with your money entirely invisible. So now, you see a targeted ad for a television, you double-click the side button on your phone, a green check mark appears, and it just arrives at your door the next day.
Yeah, you don't even think about the money leaving your account.
Exactly. The pain response is completely bypassed. Your brain doesn't register a loss, it only registers the dopamine hit of the acquisition.
The reward without the work.
Right. And the pain is delayed until weeks later when the credit card statement finally arrives.
And by then, the dopamine from the purchase is long gone. So you're just left with this financial hangover. And because the spending was so effortless, you just feel like you're constantly falling behind.
And when people feel like they are falling behind, they panic.
Right. And that's when they react loudly. They buy into the short-term trends. They chase some fake guru promising a 20% monthly return in a private Discord server or something.
Because they're desperate.
Yeah. They try to fix a slow, systemic problem with a fast, loud, disastrous solution.
And that panic, it's almost always accompanied by immense shame. The research we are analyzing today is incredibly firm on this point, actually. If you are listening to this right now and you are in debt, if you feel like you are in a tight spot, you have to drop the shame right now.
I am so glad you brought that up, because it really is the biggest barrier to entry for anyone trying to fix their finances. We look at our credit card balances and we just think, well, I am a bad person, I lack discipline, I am fundamentally broken.
But you are not broken, you are patterned.
Patterned.
Yes, you are playing a game where the house rules were heavily rigged against you from the exact moment you opened your first bank account.
That's a huge distinction.
It is, because shame is a profoundly paralyzing emotion. It tells you that your financial situation is a reflection of your moral worth. It isolates you. And the crazy thing is, the system actually relies on you feeling ashamed.
Wow. Really?
Think about it. Ashamed people don't look closely at their bank statements. Ashamed people don't call and ask for better interest rates. Ashamed people just keep quietly paying the minimum balance every month and hoping for a miracle.
Oh man, that hits close to home. Money just carries so much invisible baggage. It carries memory, fear, the way our parents talked about it at the dinner table.
Exactly.
If you grew up in a household with financial scarcity,
Right.
or, on the flip side, if you were handed a completely frictionless credit system at age 18 without a single hour of education on how compound interest works, your current situation isn't a moral failing.
No, not at all.
It is just the logical mathematical result of a long chain of patterned choices.
Precisely. And patterns, unlike character flaws, can be changed. But they can only be changed if you step out of the shame cycle and really look at the mechanics of what is actually happening.
Okay, so this reality is pretty stark. The loud performative game is fundamentally rigged to drain our wallets while distracting us with shiny one-click objects.
It is a trap.
So if that entire playing field is toxic, how do we take our power back? Which transitions us perfectly into the agency layer of our framework. Because if the loud change is a trap, the data suggests that true, lasting change is incredibly quiet.
It is almost invisible. True financial change does not happen on a stage. It doesn't happen in an Instagram announcement. It
Okay.
happens when your notifications are turned off, your screen is closed, and you are just sitting at your kitchen table on a random, unremarkable Tuesday.
Yeah.
It is the micro moment you decide not to buy something you can technically afford. There is no audience. There is no applause.
I really want to dig into the neuroscience and the emotional benefits of this, because it runs contrary to almost all popular self-help advice out there. I mean, we are constantly told to shout our goals from the rooftops.
Right, manifest it publicly.
Exactly. We are told to get an accountability partner, to post our journey online so our friends can keep us on track. But the researchers argue that you must aggressively separate the goal from the announcement. Why is it so crucial to keep these financial goals completely private?
Because the moment you announce a goal, you invite an audience. And the moment you have an audience, you are no longer just executing a plan, you are performing a narrative.
Performing a narrative, wow.
And psychologically, this is devastating to long-term progress. When you post online, I'm going to pay off $30,000 of student loans this year, or you tell your friends at a dinner party, I'm cutting out all discretionary spending to save for a house, people react positively.
Sure, they say, good for you, or, oh, that's so inspiring.
Right. They give you the applause before you've even done the work.
Oh, I see.
And your brain does not distinguish between the dopamine hit of actually achieving the goal and the dopamine hit of just talking about achieving the goal.
Wait, really? The brain treats them the same.
Yes. You get a premature reward. You feel the satisfaction, the social elevation, and the identity shift of being a fiscally responsible person, all without having saved a single dollar.
That is wild.
And consequently, your motivation to actually do the hard, boring work plummets because you've already received the chemical payoff.
That is terrifyingly true.
Meh.
But wait, hold on. Let me push back on this just a bit, because I can totally hear someone listening right now saying, well, if I don't tell anyone my goals, who stops me from blowing my budget on a Friday night?
Right, the accountability argument.
Yeah, doesn't accountability actually work? Like, if I know my friend is going to ask me how my savings goal is going, I'm probably less likely to buy that pair of shoes, right?
It's a very common pushback, but we really have to look at the fragility of external accountability. When you rely on an audience for accountability, you are outsourcing your motivation to external factors that you simply cannot control. You are making your financial future dependent on someone else's continued interest in your life. What happens when your accountability partner gets busy with their own problems?
Right.
What happens when your friends get bored of hearing about your budget? What happens when the social media likes on your debt-free journey updates start to dry up?
So if your motivation is external, when the applause stops, you stop.
Exactly. You haven't built a habit, you've just built a performance. But private victories, like quietly transferring $100 to your investment account, or choosing to keep your 4-year-old phone instead of upgrading, or spending 3 hours on a Saturday taking a free course to improve your earning potential, those build an internal foundation. When you don't tell anyone, there is no story you have to keep consistent for other people. The stakes become completely internal.
You prove to yourself that you can trust yourself.
Precisely. And that internal trust doesn't crumble when nobody is watching because it was never built for them in the first place. You realize you are building wealth for your own peace of mind, not for a stranger's validation.
I love that. And the mindset shift required for this, it's referred to in the literature as money think, right?
Yes.
It's the practice of thinking longer than the impulse. So instead of reacting to that frictionless environment we talked about and asking, what feels good right now? Or what could I buy today to signal to my coworkers that I'm successful?
Right, the performance.
You pause, you interrupt the algorithm, and you ask, what creates freedom later?
It is the ultimate exercise in delayed gratification. But we do have to be honest about the reality of executing this. Because there is a massive danger zone in this quiet, private process.
Yes, the honeymoon phase ends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hardest part of the journey is what the research calls the middle stretch. Think about it. The beginning of any financial change has a ton of energy.
Sure, you've just listened to a deep dive, you're motivated, you've downloaded a new budgeting app, it's a new chapter. You feel the power of your own agency.
And the end of the journey, obviously, has a visible, tangible result. You hit the savings goal, the debt is completely gone, you can look at the numbers and feel triumphant. But the middle...
The middle is just you. On a random Wednesday in November, doing the exact same unremarkable thing you did the week before, with absolutely no tangible proof that it's actually working.
It's brutal.
The initial motivation has just evaporated, and the final goal is still miles and miles away.
Precisely. And this is where the vast majority of people quit. Because the human brain despises a lack of feedback. We evolved to recognize immediate cause and effect. If we put our hand on a fire, it burns immediately.
Right.
But if you skip a $50 dinner out and put that money into an index fund, your life doesn't look or feel any different the next morning.
Which brings us right back to that plastic surgery myth from The Hook. We had this culturally ingrained expectation that if we just white-knuckle our way through 21 days, the habit will suddenly become effortless.
And it won't.
Right. But what does the actual science say about this middle stretch? Like, how long are we really expected to wander in the desert without feedback?
This raises an important question about habit formation. To understand the reality of the middle stretch, we have to look at the work of Dr. Philippa Lally, a health psychology researcher. She conducted one of the most rigorous studies on habit formation, tracking 96 people over 12 weeks.
Okay.
These people chose a new daily habit, Some chose something simple like drinking a glass of water with lunch. Others chose more complex habits like running for 15 minutes before dinner. She wanted to see exactly how long it took for these behaviors to reach automaticity.
Meaning the point where it takes less mental effort to do the habit than to skip it.
Exactly, and the data completely obliterated the 21-day myth. Lally found that on average, it took a median of 66 days for a behavior to become automatic.
66 days. Wow, that is over 2 months of conscious daily effort.
Yep.
That is a completely different paradigm than 3 weeks to a new you.
And 66 days is just the median. Depending on the person and the complexity of the habit they were trying to form, the actual range in her study was anywhere from 18 days to 254 days.
254 days. Are you kidding me?
I am not.
That is over 8 months of just grinding it out quietly. I mean, if I think I'm supposed to be financially disciplined on autopilot by day 21
Yeah.
and I'm still struggling on day 40, I'm going to naturally assume I'm a total failure.
Right.
But according to Lally's data, I'm not even halfway through the normal adaptation period.
Which is exactly why understanding the mechanism of the middle stretch is so vital. If we expect quick results, the boredom of the middle feels like failure. But the data stresses something incredibly comforting.
What's that?
If you feel like nothing is happening during this stretch, that is actually the process working. Boredom, the absolute absence of drama, means the neural pathways are stabilizing. Financial health is highly unglamorous.
It really brings to mind the physical fitness analogy that comes up in these discussions. If you want to get in shape, you can't just go to the gym for 24 hours straight, run on the treadmill until you literally collapse and walk out with a perfectly transformed body.
Right. It doesn't work that way.
It's biologically impossible. Your muscles need micro tears, they need rest, they need time to rebuild over months. And yet, we try to do the exact equivalent with our money.
We really do.
We try to overhaul our entire financial life in one frantic weekend of spreadsheets and extreme restriction, and when our bank account doesn't look radically different by Tuesday morning, we just quit.
It's because we confuse the leading indicator with the lagging indicator.
Explain that.
Well, going to the gym is the leading indicator. Your physical fitness is the lagging indicator. It trails behind the action. In finance, your daily spending and saving habits are the leading indicators. Your net worth is just a lagging indicator.
Ah, I see.
The work you do today won't show up in the numbers for months, sometimes years.
Lagging indicator is such a helpful way to frame it. But here's the massive problem with that. We know the middle is going to be long, we know it's going to be really boring, and we know it could take upwards of 254 days for these habits to feel natural.
Yeah.
If we have to survive that long, quiet, unglamorous middle stretch, we absolutely cannot rely on willpower.
No, definitely not.
Because willpower is a finite resource. If you have a terrible day at work, if your kid is sick, if you didn't sleep well, your willpower is just gone by 5 p.m.
If you require willpower every single day to make the right financial choice, you will eventually fail. The system is designed to wear you down.
Right. So we need to take our own flawed, exhausted human nature completely out of the equation. Which brings us to the most actionable part of this agency layer. How do we actually execute this? If motivation is unreliable, what is the mechanism for success?
We have to build systems that do not require our daily participation. We have to automate the architecture of our financial lives. And to prove just how astonishingly powerful automation is compared to willpower, we need to look at a landmark study in behavioral economics by Richard Thaler and Shlomo Benartzi.
Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize, right?
Yes.
So this is heavy-hitting economic theory.
It is. They were looking at a massive problem in the 1990s and early 2000s, which was that people were not saving enough for retirement in their 401ks. And standard economic theory basically said, just educate them, tell them they need to save, and they will.
Because we're all perfectly rational.
Exactly, which is nonsense. Human beings aren't perfectly rational calculating machines. We suffer from something called present bias. We value $1 today much, much more than $1 20 years from now.
Right.
Furthermore, if you ask someone to cut their current paycheck to save for the future, they experience loss aversion. It feels like a pay cut. It physically hurts.
So telling people to just be more disciplined completely failed.
It failed miserably. So Thaler and Benartzi designed a program called Save More Tomorrow. It was brilliantly simple because it entirely bypassed human willpower and loss aversion. They went to employees and said, we aren't going to ask you to save any more money today. Your current paycheck stays exactly the same.
Okay, so no immediate pain.
Exactly. Instead, they asked the employees to commit right now to saving a portion of their future pay raises. They said, when you get your annual 3% raise next year, can we automatically divert 2% of that into your retirement account and you keep the other 1% in your take-home pay?
Oh, that is genius. They're agreeing to part with money they haven't even touched yet.
Exactly.
It doesn't feel like a loss because they never had it in their checking account to begin with. They automated the decision before the temptation even existed. So what were the actual results of this?
Staggering. Over the course of about 3.5 years, which included 4 pay raises, the average savings rate for people enrolled in this program climbed from roughly 3.5% to 13.6% of their income.
Wait, from 3.5 to 13.6%?
Yes. That is a life-altering amount of wealth accumulation. And they did it without ever feeling a pinch in their current lifestyle. Exactly. Nobody in that study went viral on social media. There were no dramatic New Year's resolutions. There was no white-knuckling through budgets. Just a quiet default setting running in the background. But that quiet default completely changed their financial destiny.
Because they hacked their own behavior.
Right. By hacking their own behavioral biases, they created a system where doing the right thing required 0 effort. And doing the wrong thing, like opting out of the program, required effort. They made inertia work for them instead of against them.
Okay, let's unpack this because here's where it gets really interesting. The key takeaway from Save More Tomorrow isn't that these employees suddenly developed ironclad discipline.
No, not at all.
The key is that they treated their own willpower as a highly unreliable variable, and they automated the decision itself. And the research gives us 4 concrete rules of quiet execution so we can replicate this exact psychology in our own lives today. Let's really dig into the mechanics of these. Rule number 1, automate the decision, not just the transfer.
This is a subtle distinction, but it is the difference between success and failure. A lot of people think they are automating their finances by setting a calendar reminder on their phone that says, transfer $200 to savings on Friday. But that is not automation.
What is it then?
That is just a reminder to make a decision. And when Friday rolls around and you see that reminder, you have to actively choose to part with that money. Loss aversion kicks in. You start rationalizing, well, I have that dinner this weekend, maybe I'll just transfer $50 this time.
The goal is removing the moment of choice entirely.
Exactly. You go into your banking portal and you set up a recurring automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings or investment account. But here is the critical part. You set the date of that transfer for the exact day after your paycheck hits.
Not the end of the month?
Not the end of the month when you see what's left over, not the day before rent is due. The very first day the money is there, before you've even had a chance to mentally assign it to anything else, a portion of it vanishes into your future. Once that decision is mathematically automated, discipline stops being a daily emotional wrestling match and just becomes a background process.
It's the classic pay yourself first concept, but weaponized with modern banking technology. I like to think of it like a thermostat in your house. You don't walk over to the heater every 10 minutes and manually adjust a dial to keep the room at 70 degrees.
No, that would be exhausting.
You set the thermostat once, and the machine makes thousands of micro adjustments in the background while you sleep, read, and live your life. You want your savings rate to act like a thermostat.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for rule number 2, which is respect small capital. What if someone is listening right now and saying, look, I get the theory, but I am living paycheck to paycheck. After rent, groceries, and gas, I literally only have $10 or $20 left over at the end of the week.
Yeah, a lot of people are there.
Why on earth would I bother setting up an automation for $20? It's completely demoralizing.
Yeah.
It's not going to make me rich.
It is the most common mental block, and it is entirely understandable. When you are looking at a mountain of debt, $20 feels like a thimble of water on a forest fire. But the researchers counter this with brutal mathematical and behavioral reality. First, we have to look at the behavioral principle. If you cannot manage $1,000, you will absolutely destroy $100,000.
Meaning the skill set of managing money scales regardless of the amount.
Exactly. The habits that sustain wealth are the exact same habits that build it. If you build the muscle of living below your means when the margins are razor thin, you will have that muscle when your income increases. If you don't build it now, a pay raise will just lead to lifestyle creep.
That makes total sense.
Second, and more importantly, we have to talk about the literal math of compounding interest. The math does not care if the amount feels glamorous or not. It only cares about time and rate of return.
Well, let's actually break down that math, because I think compound interest is a term people hear so often it loses its impact. How does $20 a week actually turn into wealth?
Okay, let's look at a realistic baseline. If you automate a transfer of $200 a month, which is roughly $50 a week or about $7 a day, basically the cost of a fancy coffee,
Okay.
and you invest that in a broad market index fund. Historically, the stock market has returned an average of about 7 to 8% annually, adjusted for inflation. If you just let that system run quietly in the background for 20 years, that $200 a month can realistically grow past $115,000.
Wait, let me make sure the listener is grasping this.
Yeah.
You put in $200 a month. Over 20 years, your actual out-of-pocket contribution is $48,000.
Correct.
But the account balance is over $115,000.
Yes, because of compounding. In the early years, it feels agonizingly slow. Your money earns a little bit of interest, but then in the next year, your money and the interest it earned both earn interest.
Right.
It creates a snowball effect. The growth curve starts flat and then bends exponentially upwards. That extra $67,000 isn't money you worked for, it is money your money worked for.
I love that visualization. Every dollar you save is like hiring a tiny worker, and you send those workers out and they earn pennies. But then those pennies become new tiny workers, and they go out and earn more. Eventually, you have an entire army working for you 24/7 while you sleep.
Yes.
The math doesn't care that $50 a week feels unglamorous. The behavior compounds into habits, the habits compound into identity, and the identity compounds into results.
Which leads us to rule number 3, which is a direct counterattack against the frictionless spending environment we dissected earlier. It's called the 24-hour cooling rule.
Because if we've automated our savings like a thermostat, we still have to protect the money that's left in the checking account from those one-click dopamine traps.
Precisely. The modern electronic payment system is optimized to exploit your limbic system, the emotional, impulsive part of your brain.
The part that wants the shiny thing right now?
Exactly. It wants you to buy before your prefrontal cortex, the logical, long-term planning part of your brain, can step in and say, wait, do we need this? To defeat an algorithm that operates in milliseconds, you have to introduce artificial friction. You have to defeat the algorithm with time.
So how does the rule work in practice?
The rule is incredibly simple. If you are tempted by any non-essential purchase, a gadget, a piece of clothing, a new piece of gear for a hobby, you force a mandatory 24-hour wait.
So you just tell yourself no.
No, actually, you are not telling yourself no. Telling yourself no triggers scarcity and makes you want it more. You are just saying not right now.
Oh, that's clever.
You leave the item in the digital shopping cart, you close the tab, or if you're in a physical store, you literally walk out the door. If exactly 24 hours later you still intensely need the item and it fits within your means, you buy it.
But the reality is 90% of the time, that emotional limbic system urge completely evaporates, doesn't it?
Almost always.
You wake up the next day, the dopamine spike is past, and your prefrontal cortex looks at the digital cart and thinks, why on earth did I want a $300 neon sign for my kitchen at 11 p.m. last night?
Exactly.
Your wallet wins simply by waiting for the sun to come up. You give your logical brain time to catch up to your emotional brain.
It is one of the most effective ways to reclaim agency. Finally, rule number 4, reframe the budget.
This is a big one because the word budget triggers so much anxiety for people.
People hear the word budget and they immediately hear prison.
Yeah, totally.
They think of it as a ledger of punishment for past mistakes. They associate it with restriction, with not being able to go out with friends, with eating rice and beans. The psychological framing is all wrong. We have to demand a total reframe. A budget isn't a restriction, it is an architectural plan.
It's a blueprint. If you're building a house, you don't look at the architectural blueprints and say, wow, these walls are really restricting me.
No, of course not.
You say, these walls are ensuring the roof doesn't collapse on my head. A budget is simply you sitting down at the beginning of the month and telling your money exactly where to go, rather than waking up on the 30th of the month, looking at your bank statement in horror and wondering where it all disappeared. It is the blueprint for your escape from financial anxiety.
Which perfectly sets up the challenge we have for you, the listener, today. This is where the rubber meets the road. We do not want you to just listen to this deep dive, feel a temporary burst of motivation, and then change nothing about your life.
Right. This is about agency.
So here is a specific, actionable exercise drawn directly from the research. We call it CEO time.
Yes. I want you to literally pull out your calendar right now or as soon as you finish driving. Sometime this week, block exactly 60 minutes. Label that event CEO time.
And treat it seriously.
Treat it with the exact same reverence you would treat a meeting with the most important client in the world, because the client is your future self. Sit down at your table, open your banking app or credit card statement, and do it without a single ounce of shame. You are just looking at data. Find just one recurring subscription that you don't actually love or use.
Maybe it's a streaming service you haven't watched in 3 months, an app you forgot you paid for, or a gym membership you never used.
And ruthlessly cancel it.
Now, you might look at that and think, I just saved myself $12 a month. Who cares? But that is completely missing the point.
Why does it matter then?
The monetary value is secondary. That tiny, quiet action is a declaration of psychological independence. It is you proving to yourself through physical action that you are no longer a passive passenger in your financial life. You are taking the wheel.
The momentum.
Yes, the momentum generated from that one small, successful choice makes the next choice, like automating a savings transfer, exponentially easier. You are building the identity of someone who manages their money actively.
Okay, so we've faced the harsh reality of the rigged game. We've reclaimed our agency by understanding the danger of performative goals, accepting the long reality of the 66-day middle stretch, and implementing automated systems and artificial friction.
We've covered a lot.
Now, we move to the final, and frankly, the most exciting layer of our framework: possibility. As these small, quiet systems begin to compound over years and decades, what does the destination actually look like? How do we redefine what progress means in our daily lives?
We have to start by tracking the correct metrics. If you want to know if you are succeeding, you have to look at the right dashboard. The data is unequivocal on this. You must track your net worth, not your income.
Oh, this is a trap so many high earners fall into.
Absolutely. Income is the number you show people. It's what you negotiate for. It's what you brag about at a high school reunion. But income does not equal wealth. Net worth, which is simply everything you own minus everything you owe, the money you actually keep, is the absolute truth. If you have a person making $250,000 a year, but they spend $255,000 a year on leased cars, a massive mortgage, and private schools, their net worth is decreasing. They are quite literally getting poorer every day.
Wow.
Contrast that with someone making $70,000 a year who quietly saves and invests $10,000 a year. That second person is building lasting wealth, regardless of the smaller salary.
And how often should we be checking this net worth? Because with apps today, you can check your portfolio balance every 13 seconds if you want to.
Which you absolutely should not do.
Sure.
Checking daily just feeds anxiety and triggers that limbic system we talked about. The stock market fluctuates daily based on news, algorithms, and global events that have nothing to do with your long-term plan.
It's just noise.
Exactly. If you check daily, you give market noise permission to dictate your emotional state. You should calculate your net worth monthly or even quarterly. You check it just often enough to ensure the trajectory is moving up and to the right over time, but you detach from the daily drama.
So we track the invisible truth, net worth. But what are we actually tracking toward? Because the ultimate goal isn't just endless accumulation, right? We aren't trying to be miserable hoarders who just want to see a high score on a bank screen before we die.
Exactly. Wealth for the sake of wealth is pointless. The actual goal is defining your personal walkaway number.
I love this concept. Let's really break down what a walkaway number is and how someone calculates it.
Your walkaway number is the specific amount of accumulated invested wealth that generates enough passive income to cover your living expenses indefinitely. It is the mathematical point of total freedom.
Freedom.
Yes, the moment you hit this number, you no longer have to trade your time for money. You work if you want to on what you want to, but survival is no longer tied to a paycheck.
And there's actual math to figure this out, right? Like the 4% rule?
Yes, a common baseline in the financial independence community is the 4% rule, which suggests you need about 25 times your annual expenses invested in a diversified portfolio.
Okay, so if you figure out you can live a deeply satisfying life on $60,000 a year.
Your walkaway number is roughly $1.5 million. Now, that number sounds massive, but remember the math of compounding we discussed earlier. With automated, quiet consistency over decades, reaching that number is a mathematical probability for a middle-class earner, not a lottery pipe dream.
And defining that number is such a deeply personal, revolutionary victory. Because once you know your specific number and you see yourself making automated progress toward it every month, your definition of status completely flips.
It really does.
You realize that the ultimate flex, the true symbol of having made it, is not a luxury watch. It is not an oversized house with a mortgage that forces you to work 60 hours a week until you're 70.
The ultimate flex is an empty schedule on a Tuesday.
I want everyone listening to just visualize that for a second. An empty schedule on a Tuesday.
It is the unyielding ability to control your own calendar. It is waking up on a random weekday and realizing that your time belongs entirely to you.
That sounds amazing.
You can spend the morning reading, you can take a 3-hour walk, you can work on a passion project that pays nothing, or you can just sit in the quiet. That is what the possibility layer looks like in real life. We are redefining peace as the highest form of wealth.
Peace as wealth. What does that actually look like for someone who achieves it even before they hit full retirement? Because financial peace isn't just the switch that flips at the end, it's a spectrum you move along.
It looks remarkably unglamorous from the outside, but it is incredibly profound on the inside. Peace as wealth means that when a tire blows out on your car or your water heater breaks, it is just an annoying administrative task.
Right.
It is a minor inconvenience, not a financial crisis that ruins your month or forces you to carry credit card debt at 24% interest. It means you can walk away from a toxic job or an abusive boss because you have a 6-month emergency fund acting as a shield.
A literal shield.
It means you can help a family member in need without destroying your own stability. Above all, it means you actually sleep through the night, because the low-level, grinding hum of financial anxiety that dictates so many people's lives has finally been silenced. Small, structural, quiet wins completely change the fundamental architecture of your life.
It's not about becoming a fundamentally different person or suddenly transforming into an Instagram influencer. It's about building a life that doesn't constantly feel like an emergency. It's about designing an environment where your future is protected by systems, not by frantic daily willpower.
Absolutely.
We've covered incredible ground today. We started by looking hard at the reality of a loud, performative world that is literally engineered by billions of dollars of tech to bypass your logic, drain your wallet, and leave you feeling ashamed.
A rigged game.
We moved into the agency of private, quiet goals, learning how to survive that boring 66-day-plus middle stretch where nothing seems to happen. And we learned how to do that by taking our flawed willpower out of the equation.
Utilizing automated savings systems, deploying the 24-hour cooling rule against algorithms, and taking control with dedicated CEO time.
And finally, we looked at the ultimate possibility. Tracking your true net worth, finding your walkaway number, and realizing that time wealth, an empty Tuesday calendar, is the greatest flex of all.
If there is one overarching visual to summarize the research today, it is this. Think of a massive oak tree. That tree spends years, sometimes decades, growing its root system deep into the dark, quiet earth before it ever produces branches high enough for anyone to stop and admire.
The roots are what matter.
Your daily financial habits, those boring, private decisions you make when absolutely nobody is clapping for you, are your roots. If your progress feels invisible right now, if you are stuck in that long middle stretch, you are not failing. You are just in the root building phase. The work is quiet, it is unglamorous, and it is entirely private. But the outcome, the freedom, the stability, the peace will fundamentally change your family's life. Keep going.
So what does this all mean? We've given you the blueprint to step out of that loud, frantic financial party, close the door behind you, and quietly automate your way to freedom.
Right.
But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your week. You now understand the mechanics of how to stop performing for an audience with your money and how to protect your wallet from a frictionless world. But what happens if you apply this exact same rule of quiet consistency and artificial friction to the other most valuable currency you possess, your daily attention?
Oh, wow.
If you stopped performing for an audience online, if you instituted a 24-hour cooling rule on your reactions, if you took your attention back from the algorithms that are literally designed to monetize your outrage and your envy, how much of your own mind would you get back tomorrow? Think about it. Do the quiet work. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.